Welcome back, everybody, to the Rock and Blues Experience and the audio edition of the show, where we're looking back at some of the best moments from the guests we've had on the show in recent times. Now, just to remind you, you can catch all of the exclusive content in video form over on the website, www.therockandbluesexperience.com, also on Facebook and YouTube. And just released, Steve Bolton and Paul Everett from Atomic Rooster on the show. They've got a brand new album out in October. It's called Circle the Sun. And, well, if you were a fan of that classic Rooster sound from those halcyon days of the early 1970s, this is a pure joy. Here's a clip then with Steve, who recounts joining in 1971 and what it was like as this young kid who was hardly travelled at all, really, from Lancashire, when he was let loose in the US for the very first time. So, how did a kid out of Manchester, or out of Lancashire, rather, how did you get on sampling the high life of being a rock star in the States back then? I mean, the experiences.
I got to give it a go.
It's a miracle in it, Steve.
I got into all sorts of trouble. We had 2 nights of the Whiskey A Go-Go, 3 nights, I think. I missed the first one completely. I was out tripping my bollocks up in the Hollywood Hills, And then, it was just, it was great,
Steve, who gave you a lift to the gig?
I bought a guitar while I was there on Sunset Strip at Hollywood Guitars, and I bought a Strat. Subsequently got nicked. It was a bit of a dog whip, and I was out there because I saw that everyone thumbed a lift on Sunset Boulevard. So I went out and I got a plastic guitar in a plastic bag, and I'm thumbing a lift. And this car pulled up with these 2 guys who were obviously high as kites and drunk and stoned. And one of the guys was the drummer from the Buffalo Springfield, Dewey Martin.
Yeah.
They kind of kidnapped me, and we went up in the hills, and it was that 24-hour party. And I thought, shit. Oh, I should have been playing at the Whiskey A Go-Go last night,
What happened then when you rolled back into band camp the following day? Were they like, where the fuck did you go to?
I don't know. I think I got away with it.
What was your first experience of meeting and seeing Alice Cooper then? Because this was something that was completely out there, really.
Yeah, we were signed in America to Elektra Records. And Jack Holtzman was the head honcho, and he was great. And he had his young son with him, and we went to. He took us to see Rick and me to see Alice Cooper when he was doing the thing with the guillotine on stage, and we were kind of in a backstage area. There's a big sort of area, and Alice was running to the stage. The band had gone, and Alice saw Rick and me, and he came over. He did said, Atomic Rooster, guy, I saw you guys last night. Amazing, And Jack Holtzman was with his young son, who came up on Facebook a few weeks ago. Now he's now grown up, So I just said, "Hi, do you remember me? I was in Atomic Rooster." He said, "Bloody hell, I remember that. I remember that incident with Alice Cooper and my dad." I mean, Jack Holtzman is the man, He signed Arthur Lee and Love and The Doors and the whole deal,
Great stories there told by Steve Boltz Bolton, who was in the band back in 71, recorded Made in England. And if you feel like going and discovering it again, then do, because it'll set you up perfectly for when Circle the Sun comes out, which is in the next couple of weeks. The feature is live on the website and YouTube and Facebook now, as indeed is Steve Hackett. Now, if you are a fan of Steve's, then head over to the website, YouTube or Facebook to catch this. It's a brand new feature. Here's a clip then with Steve, and we were talking about his favourite Genesis album, which was Selling England by the Pound. the favourite album of yours, of Genesis, will probably be included perhaps when it's selling England by the pound. I know you've already done a tour, but I do love going back to look at the reviews of these, and that one in particular at the time. Listening to this is like experiencing time travel from a lone voice on a British hillside to corporations taking over. You don't get people who write reviews like that anymore.
No, it's well, I think Lennon picked up on the band round about that time.
Yes.
We started hearing him saying nice things, it was a watershed album, I think. The title helped us gain an American audience. The fact that we were purporting to be all things English, selling England to you by the pound or by the dollar or whatever, doesn't really matter. But I don't think there's a weak track on it. I would say, to end with Foxtrot, its predecessor, a year earlier, I would say again, there's not actually a weak track on any of this stuff. It's just degrees of interest. You may be more interested in Water of the Skies than you are Timetable. But nonetheless, Timetable has got some intriguing moments on it, and that's the predecessor. Whereas Selling England, of course, has got this extraordinary first track on it for a start, with all of its time travel and a kind of collision of genres, perhaps.
And I must mention, because you're talking about tours, and we have the 2026, but first 2025, and an extensive US tour. This was the time that you toured the USA for the very first time. What was it like for you to experience the culture and the lifestyle?
Well, I think that the first time I was in New York, I'd been told a day or so beforehand that there'd literally been some sort of police thing going on, and that police had their guns out and they were chasing some guy up the stairs in the very hotel that we were going to stay in New York.
What a musician he is. Steve Hackett. That feature is out now. It is live on the website, YouTube or Facebook. Now, moving on. Damon Johnson is currently with Lynyrd Skynyrd out on tour, and he's been a friend of Marty Friedrichsen, the award-winning producer and songwriter, for many years. Now, Damon was sat at home one day a few years back when the phone rang, and it was Marty with an offer that he simply couldn't refuse.
You know, look, I'd already been in the business long enough that it was getting harder to just blow my mind. I'd already played with Alice and written with Sammy, and Stevie Nicks had recorded one of my songs. And, you know, I'm starting to feel like a pretty good mid-level musician. But to get that call from Marty, and it was funny. He goes, "Well, would you be okay playing rhythm guitar?" And I said, "Sure, man, whatever you guys need." I said, "Who's going to play lead?" He goes, "Jeff Beck." You know, and I think I might have physically sort of fallen out of my chair. And I said, "Oh, my God, Jeff and Steven." He goes, "Well, there's more." He goes, "We're going to have a guest bass player on Sweet Emotion." I said, "Who, John Paul Jones?" He goes, "Better." I said, "Geddy Lee." He goes, "Better." Incredible. And Sting was so wonderful, Tim. He was so wonderful. We had one rehearsal in Las Vegas the day before the show. And I'm a fan, deep fan of Sting, studied his songwriting for decades. They said, "What's it going to be like with Sting?" I said, "Well, I tell you one thing, he's going to be on time. So we can't be late. We have to be there early." Sure enough, man, 1:45, in walks Sting with his bass on his gig bag, and he had his tour manager with him. And he was very workmanlike. He was very professional. We're talking about a legend. We're talking about one of the icons of all rock pop music of all
Yeah.
time. Of all time. He was just another working stiff just like me. And he came straight over and introduced himself, and he said, Damon, I've got some questions about this bass part on Sweet Emotion. Could you work with me? I said, of course. Anything you need, Sting. So we just had this wonderful interaction. And Tim, there was a moment the next night before the show. The first person who came to me was Steven. He goes, hey, Damon, I've got you turned up in my right ear because I want to hear that riff, man. You're playing the riff great. So I said, okay, cool, man. Awesome. Then Jeff Beck comes over. He says, Damon, will you cue me on when the talk box comes in, on the intro? I said, no problem, Jeff. I got you. Just look over at me. I got you. Then Sting comes over. Damon, don't forget, nod at me in that middle section when we go back to the riff. I said, Sting, I'm going to be standing just off your left shoulder. You look over at me. I got you. And the lights go dark. And Tim, I just remember looking down at my boots and thinking, who has my life? Who ever in the history of music
It's amazing.
has an experience like this, man? And we opened the entire show. It was this big event they have over here called the iHeart Radio Festival. And it was in the MGM Grand, arena. And we were the opening act. And it's filmed live. It's just insanity. And here I come, man, from Alabama, from the chicken farm with my Les Paul.
Is this Gertrude? Is that Gertrude, by the way?
That was Gertrude. That was Gertrude.
Just before I get to Lynyrd Skynyrd, I just want to mention one more thing that you did, which is so out there, and it's just another ordinary day, and there's a phone ringing, and it's Marty Friedrichsen's on the phone. Look, we've got a one-off show in Vegas. Steven Tyler is going to be singing. Jeff Beck's going to be playing, or Sting's going to be there as well. And there you are on stage playing Sweet Emotion with, this collective that people would, literally, they'd sell their soul, wouldn't they? That, they're on the crossroads of life and they really think about shaving off a few years if you could get in and play with these guys. But what was that like? I've seen the video. It's
incredible. Just incredible, Tim. It still just feels like some kind of a dream. It just feels like it wasn't even real. And I'm so grateful to Marty that he thought of me in that moment. And the timing of it was perfect because I was between Alice and Thin Lizzy. And, Marty had been very essential in some of Aerosmith's latter-day radio hits. He and Steven wrote the wonderful song Jaded together. That was just the two of them that wrote that.
Damon Johnson talking about Marty Friedrichsen and those two working together again. Brother Kane, who were Damon's first band, whose debut album shifted over 250,000 copies back in the 90s. They're back together again. There's a new album coming this November. Marty Friedrichsen has produced it. Again, there is a lot more of that available on the video edition. You can find it on the website, YouTube, or Facebook. Now, Danny, as we have had many a legendary drummer on this show, Chris Slade is another. A member of AC/DC when they went into the studios in Canada back at the end of the 80s, looking to try and re-establish themselves as one of the world's leading rock bands after a series of lackluster albums. The result was The Razor's Edge, which firmly planted the act back amongst the global elite. And of course, the album spawned that song, Thunderstruck, which in the US, by the way, sold over 10 million copies as a single. It's one of the best-selling singles of all time, with over 15 million sold. Chris Slade was on the show just a while back, and we look back at the recording of that album and that song in particular. Because you had, as the producer of the Razor's Edge, you had Bruce Fairbairn, who was just about the biggest name in rock music production at that time. He'd done Slippery in New Jersey with Bon Jovi, he'd done Aerosmith's return to mega stardom. So what was it like working with him? What do you remember about working with Bruce?
It was really good. He asked me, can you go boom, boom? When they go thunder, and I went, yeah, of course. And he seemed incredibly surprised that I could go boom boom in time with my own playing, you know. And it's like I went, of course I can do it. It's dead simple. Any drummer in the world could do it. And you know, just give me a count in, play the song, and take. Okay, yeah, all right. You know, it was like. He was incredibly surprised that I was able to do that. And he wanted a few times, you know, around, because he wanted as big a sound as possible.
Well, he succeeded in that.
Yeah.
The album, when it came out, again, I mean, if you go back and you look at some of the reviews, the one that I like most, it said tight, highly strung, menacing, and entirely worthy of the status as the grand comeback of the legendary rock and roll runts.
They were genius writers, actually. When, you know, Angus and Malcolm together, they were absolutely, you know, and George also helped, I think. I don't know about the credits, but I mean, he helped with arrangements, maybe, Brother George. Because he used to be in the Easy Beats in the 60s.
Yeah.
So he knew his stuff. And he, you know, they're clever blokes. All of them. Probably the whole family, who knows. And, you know, they were genius writers. And Malcolm, especially, was a genius guitarist. The best rhythm player I have ever worked with. Because, you know, I've worked with a few. I don't mean guitarists, I mean rhythm players. And he never missed a beat. He was always on time. He never went wrong, and he made my job so easy because I just had to follow him. And it was, wow, he was the engine room for Cliff and me to play against, you know. He was tremendous. And a very nice guy, actually.
I mean, everybody loved it. I mean, it was an amazing song. It still is. I mean, possibly, if I say this, I know I'm going to get a load of grief. Possibly their most famous song, I think.
Yeah, well, Back in Black has sold more, I think. But Thunderstruck up there.
But as an individual song.
Top 2 or 3, you know.
And the funny thing is about that album, everybody remembers it for Thunderstruck. But the biggest song on that album in terms of chart success was Money Talks.
Oh, right.
Got to number in the top 30 in the US. They've never had a song that's charted higher.
Right. Yeah, it was very singly, if you like, because David Mallet, the video producer, wanted me to act up a bit. And I said, I can't act up in this. Because he said, oh yeah, it's a bit like a Cliff Richard song, isn't it? I said, yeah, it is a bit. So you can't go, money talks. You can't do that, you know. Which is on Thunderstruck, though. I could do all that because, you know, I've been doing martial arts all my life. So I knew what aggression was. And I grew up in South Wales. So I knew all about aggression.
Well, that was Chris Slade. What a career he's had. Just in case you don't know where it all began for him, it was back in the mid-60s. He began with Tom Jones. Yeah, before Tom Jones was actually known as Tom Jones. And he went off, of course, to work with Man from Man in Uriah Heep and so many other people. And again, if you want to watch that, and I can tell you there's some fantastic stories from Chris there. So head over to the website, YouTube or Facebook page. And we are going to stay with drummers. Roger Earl of Foghat has been hard at it on the drum stool since the 60s as well. In fact, one of his earliest memories was rocking up at a place called the Birdcage Club in London off of Piccadilly Circus. And it was to audition for the Jimi Hendrix Band. In this clip, though, he remembers playing literally anywhere they could get a gig in those early days, and also being on tour with another legendary performer by the name of Steve Marriot and his band, Humble Pie.
Then we play anywhere, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, anywhere that somebody wanted us to play. Fortunately, I guess the record company was sort of helping to support the tour because we had no money. But it was a lot of fun. The band was really tight, and there was a lot of healthy camaraderie in the band back then. And we wanted to play. As I said about Lonesome Dave beforehand, he and I were very much the same as far as wanting to play. We play anywhere, anytime, anyway, anyhow. In fact, over the years, we used to go out and jam and do stuff in various blues clubs. But yeah, I love Dave for that. He was, he just loved to play.
The first tour you had, the first big one, you had Humble Pie.
Yeah,
which turned out to be a bit interesting, didn't it? We needed a bit of intervention from Steve Marriott for you to get the lights on.
Yeah, Stevie Marriott was just beautiful. I love the man, crazy motherfucker, totally fucking nuts. I would stay up for days on end. I would usually, after about a day and a half, I'd had enough. I'd have to lay down. A couple of times I fell asleep under his coffee table. But yeah, we'd started doing, this is in 73, I think, might be 72, 73, I think, maybe 72. Anyway, we're doing some shows opening up for Humble Pie. Now they were monsters and they played fantastic. And it was either the crew, they were giving us a hard time about doing sound checks and limiting the amount of lights we could use. And so our manager went in and had a word with Steve about maybe you could intervene here and make sure this goes a bit smoother, because Steve was great and the band was cool. Stevie comes out on stage and said, "Give fucking Foghat whatever the fuck they want and stop fucking with fucking Foghat, all right?" And yes, talking about endearing yourself to somebody. No, he was talking about a package of dynamite. Great singer, great guitar player, and the band also was like. We learned a lot from playing with Humble Pie. I mean, they knew how to work an audience, and you had to be on top of your game if you were opening up for that band. And yeah, we learned a lot from that.
What great memories, what great times. And can you imagine seeing Foghat opening for Steve Marriott and Humble Pie? What a great night. Now, what would you do if you hit the big time? Ended up joining one of the biggest names in rock or heavy metal? Well, that is exactly what happened to Blaze Bayley, the Wolfsbane singer, had enjoyed some minor successes with his band, but after auditioning for Iron Maiden after Bruce Dickinson left, He got the call on Christmas Eve to say, you got the gig. So, what would you have done? What did he do? How did he reward himself? What was the first thing he actually went out and bought? Porsche, Range Rover, holidays somewhere exotic? No. I'll leave it to Blaze to tell you.
I bought myself a crate of Guinness and an answer phone were the first things that I got. And I remember my girlfriend at the time saying, "Oh, spending a lot of money." You know, when we bought an answer phone, because you had to have one. That was part of the thing. Get yourself, you've got it now. Get yourself an answer phone. Very important that you don't miss any messages, because it was just on the edge of mobile phones coming in when that happened. So yeah, it was a crazy time.
Did you do anything completely outrageous apart from the crate of Guinness and the answer machine?
No.
Did you wander by the showrooms of the Range Rovers and Porsches?
No.
Have a look.
No. What happened was that my girlfriend at the time, her uncle was selling his Jag, and it was 10 years old. And we joked in Wolfsbane, we'd looked in Auto Trader, and you could get a Jag for £1,000 or £900 because they're so expensive to run. But I thought, you know what, that's actually achievable. An idiot like me could probably scrape together 900 quid if you were desperate, and you could actually own a Jag. A fool like me, I thought, how cool would that be? If you driving you couldn't drive it far because I only did about 12 miles to the gallon. But I thought, you know what? And then at a meeting much later on, I had a Reliant Robin, which I'm not ashamed of at all. I'm a biker, you know. I passed my bike test. I got a motorcycle and a Reliant Robin, neither of which was suitable to travel the 100-odd miles to Harlow and back for rehearsals every week. So I said, would it be possible to get some money for a car? And they said, yeah. So they gave me a little advance towards a car, and I bought my girlfriend's uncle's old Jag, 10 years old, Series 6 Jag, and it was fantastic. But people thought I bought a new Jag, because they didn't know what a new Jag looked like compared to the old Series 6. And it was, well, bloody hell, I was joined Iron Maiden, he's bought a new Jag. No, they cost £40,000. I had about £3,000 to spend on a car, and I spent it on a second-hand car.
And from Blaze's big break to a very first show on the shores of the UK. What's it like for a musician then to land from the US on his first ever trip? And this is what Doug Aldrich had to say about that when he joined me with John Corabi, and we were talking about his first ever stop off on the shores of Great Britain when he arrived with the legendary Ronnie James Dio and his band Dio. Do you remember the first time you played in the UK, Doug?
Oh yeah. The first time I think was with Dio, and it was nerve-wracking because of, like what John said, all these bands, and Ronnie was kind of I would say Ronnie was a wannabe Englishman. You know, he loved England, he loved Britain, and so everything felt. I mean, like everything about Ronnie was about that, and coming to the UK was very important, and I felt a little bit of pressure, and so I'll never forget that. And then, of course, you know, we spent a lot of time with Whitesnake in the UK. That's one of David's biggest strongholds, and I just think about what John said. You know, we've been coming there for a long time, and it's always something. It's always special. The UK is just different than anywhere else in the world. There's no place like it. Just like Japan, you know, it's really very unique. Even though we speak the same language, it's very unique, and the culture is definitely different. It's really cool. The tea time, all that stuff is like traditions of England and the UK is awesome. So yeah,
can't wait. Ronnie was big into it, wasn't he? He was big into the Guinness, the beer, the curry. He loved all of that. Were there any specific aspects of English culture which you took to? I mean, I think you mentioned bangers and mash.
Yeah, I mean, I'll let John tell you after. I just want to say one thing. It's from being in England that I actually got an appreciation for soccer.
Oh, wow.
I really didn't understand it for many years. Even when I'd been coming to the UK for quite some time with Whitesnake, and on a day off we'd go and it'd be England, or I remember we were in Wales once and it was England versus somebody, I forget, maybe it was England and Wales, if that was possible. I don't remember.
Yeah, possible.
But it was just like the English were so into it, and I was trying to understand. I didn't know what offsides was or any of this stuff, and and it was. Now I get it. Now I've learned about it.
Well, that was Doug Aldrich and John Corabi talking there. And that is it for this edition of the show. Just to remind you that all of the audio content on today's show and the last show is available to watch in full 4K video on the website, Facebook or YouTube channel, where you can watch all the news of the week and catch some of the best new music of the week as well. www.therockandbluesexperience.com is the place to go. And just out, as we said, there's an exclusive feature with Steve Hackett and Atomic Rooster on there as well. And that is it. We will be back next week. Until then, thank you very much for listening. For the moment, though, from me, Tim Capel. Bye-bye for now.